Hello, Vincent.
Hi Emily, hi.
Thank you very much for joining me today to talk about this brilliant exhibition that you put together for us.
Okay, that's super, yeah.
I just wanted to ask you a little bit about how it came about how you ended up getting in touch with all of these artists, these four other artists that you've brought together. Work sits really well
Right.
together, so I'm guessing you found sort of an affinity in what they were doing with what you do.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I put my print together. It took me a while to do my Bowie print, years in fact, because when I got the first picture, well, the first session of pictures, this picture, people kept asking me to, could they have a copy of it? And I eventually realised that was a really good shot, probably the best shot. And then I started to make my screens up, and Paul Smith asked me to do them for his Paris Fashion Week a couple of years ago. And then I did a couple more singles because I started off doing rock singles from a sort of nostalgia point of view. So I did some Bowie singles, and I was working in a studio with the same studio as David Studwell, and we were both sort of screening a lot together on different images. And I realised he had a lot of sort of Warhol inspired work, and he'd done a Bowie print, and he'd done other Frank Sinatra, and he'd done the lovely 40s ladies. So I always remembered that, and I thought, well, that's a really interesting picture. And then it's funny, all the sort of outpouring of emotion after he died. Different generations, everybody seemed to hook on to one of his images, thin white tube, whatever. And about 2 years ago, I also came across Gray through Instagram, really. And I thought, of course, these are really good graphics. He did a whole range of icons, and he had a really, I thought they're unusual Polaroids, I thought. Oops. And so I sort of hooked up with him, and I always liked his work. And then I realised he'd done a lot of Bowie images and Warhol, and he'd done Lou Reed, and everybody in his own distinct style. And that was it really. I thought, well, there's the three of us. And I asked Chris Makos, who I'd known for years, and I hadn't seen his Bowie picture because I'd worked with him a lot. And he said, yeah, I do have a picture of him I took, And I thought, well, that's four. And that's when I started to think, well, we've all got a different take, different time of Bowie that we've worked on prints and editions with. So it'd be nice for us to put them all together in one place. And thankfully you came and liked the look of it. And a sort of real bonus was you having Terry Pastor's work, which is, very famous. So it seemed like a good time for a bunch of young artists to get together and show their work. So I was really pleased to see, and they're all different in a way, different sizes, different colours, and
Well, they
different
are,
times.
and they're
really.
all working with, to some degree, found or appropriated or edited imagery. I mean, in your case, those photographs of Bowie, the Café Royal photographs, which you can tell me a bit more about in a minute, are your photographs, but subsequently repurposed somehow. Terry Pastor is working with photographs he didn't take, but creating the work really is done. The power of the work happens when he's put his airbrush to it.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, he brought a black and white picture to life, really, in more ways than one. And again, that was before all the new technology. So it's great that we've got someone like Gray, who's like an Instagram artist, a multimedia artist, really, in the mix.
Yeah, these miniature Polaroid photos sort of blown
Yeah,
up.
and they enlarge really well, as you
They
see.
do.
You know, they do work.
They do, and so that, I mean, he is working with found imagery or appropriated, and as well, we'll put some images up there to illustrate what we're talking about. But you really aren't looking at somebody else's work. That is the way that he treats those tiny Instax photographs become really something else once they're blown up to. I mean, these are kind of an A3 plus size. And
Right.
it's interesting.
Yeah, I possibly even bigger. You know, because I know he's a big Warhol fan, and he always did things like 20 by 30 or
Yes.
A0 plus. You know, so it's great in a way. You don't lose.
No.
And I think Warhol said to me once, you know, if you take something small and make it really big, it becomes another thing. So I've always kept that in mind.
Absolutely. I love that here. So
Scale.
tell me a little bit about that then. That leads us to you talking about Warhol and how you met Christopher Makos. A little bit of that history.
Yeah, well, Chris Makos, I first saw his work in Interview magazine, and lots of great photography in there, Bruce Weber and that. And I asked him to do a Guinness ad for me and some Polaroid work. He was a great person to work with. I think when you're an art director and you brief someone, you live in a lot of hope that they get the message and they'll produce something that's exciting and even more so perhaps. And he was always great to work with and always came back with a really good image at the end of it. And his background is black and white, really. And after I'd done a couple of jobs with him on the phone, and I think he came to London once, I realised he's very big friends with Andy, and I had the Polaroid account at Ogilvy's then. I was the art director on it. And it was a bit of a forgotten account. It wasn't that glamorous, but I sort of knew it would come good at some point and I could make something of it if I got the right brief. And I asked Andy to do a Christmas Polaroid campaign, a poster for me at that time through Christopher. He used him as a sort of like his agent. I was a bit nervous. I said, "Do you think Andy would do a job for me? You know, I've got this little Christmas brief." And he was fine with that. And we were going to do it. Unfortunately, the plug got pulled, as things do in advertising, very last minute. And he was no problem with that either. I mean, there's always a feeling that when you pull out of a job, you'll get back to someone quite soon with a similar job. So we kept in touch, and he used to see me when he came to London, and he was really nice to be around and to have sort of relationship, friendship with. But didn't last very long. I mean, I think it was about 2-3 years later. He suddenly passed away, so I never really got the chance to to make up to work with him on another brief, really. So that's how the Warhol connection came through.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then around that same time, the Bowie connection.
Well, that was a couple of years later. I got a tip off from a guy on the Evening Standard just the night before that he was going to do a press conference at the Savoy, and he sort of disappeared. The last time we'd seen him was like a Ziggy Stardust and all that drama and glamour, and it was a bit of a shock. I thought, wow, this journalist said to me, "Well, why didn't you go down there with your camera, just try and get in?" So I phoned the Savoy up first thing in the morning, and they said, "I'm sorry, sir, it's all too much for us. It's gone to the Cafe Royal." And I thought, well, this is getting quite a big event all of a sudden. I think it was about 10 o'clock in the morning. So I went to the Cafe Royal with my cameras and saw this huge crowd outside of paparazzi and cameramen and people pushing, shoving, and I thought I'll never get a decent close-up, which is the thing you want of anybody that famous, if you like. So I waited just by the top of the stairs where he was about to come out into this reception rather than down in the foyer with all the paparazzi guys, because they just elbow you out the way and they have little ladders with them and they just push you aside. And that's when I took that picture that I used. And after that he went into the reception area and he was panning around all the cameras like he always does, just staring straight down the lens. And I think it's a problem with press work. Your pictures are always the same as everybody else's. And it wasn't until I went back over that first picture I took that I realised, it looked kind of special. And funny enough, can I hold it up to the camera here?
Yeah, let's have a look.
Because it's quite a wide shot, really. I don't know if you can see that.
Vincent, it is recording, isn't it? You've got a red light flashing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's flashing away. So, I blew it up from that little 35mm
Brilliant.
frame. Yeah.
It is total pop art. A lot, and it is such a joy in these times, especially to be sat here surrounded by all your images and these other 4 artists, honestly.
Oh, very kind. Compliments always accepted.
So David Studwell's another. I can't actually see our David Studwell at the moment because that has gone off the wall.
Oh, right. Well, that's good.
Another one, but
replacement, yeah.
But that as well, that series of work he did, and especially for me, the Bowie one, is of like iconic images of famous, A-listers with their police photo, and somehow that with the off guard. I mean, there he is staring down into the lens, but he's not in control in the way that maybe he usually was of his image.
That's right.
It's interesting to see that one placed alongside yours, where he's to a degree unawares, and
yes,
Terry Pastor's, where he is so in control of exactly how that's coming across.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think he was. As you look back over people, you realise how hard they worked to get to where they are, and when they did get there, they managed to use the images of themselves, in the way they wanted. They were not sort of off guard or doing silly things. I mean, as happens these days.
I'm hoping that we'll get to have a little bit of a chat with, or at least to hear from the other artists at the exhibition, because it would be nice to bring all your voices as well as all your images together.
All right, that would be great.
It would.
I mean, it's good that everybody went along with it and quite quickly, picked up on the idea and thought we should do it on this 5 years in.
Well, it's a big deal. I mean, that year we thought we were saying this. I was saying this to my husband the other day that that year that Bowie died, Prince died, and so many others. We remember getting to the end of that and saying, "Oh, what an awful year." Little did we know. So marking that 5 years on.
Yeah, it's worth doing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, and that excuse me, that moment when he did leave planet Earth was really shocking for
for a generation, for a couple of generations.
So,
but it's great that he's managed to create all this amazing music and film and performance. Some of it great, some of it not so great. As ever, you have to do a few things that aren't quite right, but a lot of it. And he was basically doing the same thing over many years, writing little stories and putting them to music. His early folk music, things like that, they were just little little notes and little stories, which is they just became bigger and more famous, really.
And lovely to see the sort of the relationship that sort of pop art, Warhol, through you.
Yeah,
relationship
funny enough about the Warhol thing. I know you wrote that song, and I have heard subsequently that Andy Warhol wasn't very happy with it, but who knows? And I think he did go to. Yeah, maybe. But he went to the factory, one of the factories, because I know there were 3 factories, 3 different locations, and I think everybody sort of gravitated to the factory in the 60s. I didn't really know anything about that time. I met him in the 80s, early 80s, so he was much more commercial than Warhol, much more about producing, servicing his 8 floors of the building that he was in.
Well, it's lovely to have that captured here as well, with the grey Instax with Bowie playing Warhol in Basquiat. And
that's right, yeah.
Sort of
all very
double iconography.
Cyclical. Really.
Yeah, it is, and I think that sort of rounds us up quite nicely. It was really lovely. I mean, I could talk to you a lot more about the singles, covers, and things. Maybe another time.
Oh, sure. Okay, anytime.
Actually, maybe I should talk to you
Great.
about those now. Yeah, actually, so I'm going to ask you one more question, Vincent. So tell me a little bit about how you came to be doing the single covers. You were art director of...
Well, I was Ogilvy and Mather was my last sort of serious, agency job. And when I left there, I set up with my copywriter as a sort of mini agency, and we were doing a few nice little campaigns, and the bits in between where we didn't have any work to do, I used to hate not doing anything for, like, I could see nothing would happen for 2 weeks, and I came across we were clearing out, my sister and I were clearing out the house up in Liverpool, the singles that we bought then as teenagers or pre-teens. And I realised how interesting they were as a sort of 3-dimensional bit of artwork without any big design input. They were sort of stamped out on by machine, and the fact that you had something in your hand, whereas my kids, everything's downloaded and you don't actually have anything. It's on your phone, but you don't own it. Whereas when you used to buy a single, it was sort of your pocket money, and you'd come back holding this thing, and you'd have to go somewhere to put it on and take it to your friends. It just made me realise that passing of time really, and as you say, you remember when you bought it, or people would write their names on the covers. And, there's a sort of complete analog music time which has disappeared now, and I thought it's worth and I started doing the prints because I remember Andy saying to me, have you done any screen prints yet? And I said, well, I used to do them at college but I haven't done it for years. And he said, oh, you should try doing some, and I remembered that at the time, and then I went back into the studio and produced this set really of pop singles.
It is something, actually. I mean, Hypergallery is all about the art of the album, as you know, and the LP itself isn't something you think of as anything until you look at this and you think even the vinyl releases coming out today don't have that same design, which lasted for so long, which is fundamentally a colour sticker, the title, typography is fairly standard.
Yeah.
So in itself,
I mean, it's brilliant now. The graphic design and has opened up so much, and in the 60s it just wasn't there really. There were a few people doing good work, Pentagram and that, but yeah, it's completely changed, and as everything does.
Well, I think that's and I think actually it's really reflected in how many I guess the need has expanded to meet the interest, but the number of people and the huge range of different types of people going into graphic design and styling and things related to the visual world around us maybe has a lot to owe to some of the stuff that you worked on and your contemporaries worked on then, because
Sure. I mean that they were the things, like obviously Sergeant Pepper's album, that people woke up, young designers thought,
absolutely.
Wow, look at this,
maybe I can. Yeah.
and great photography too, Robert Freeman's Beatles pictures prior to that. All of the pop music pictures were studio whiteouts, or whatever, very, very simple, structured things.
So I'm getting the full view of it here, and we're going to put this exhibition on an extension and move it to a window
great.
front. So there's a bit longer for people to see it, both on the website and
lovely, lovely. And they could drive down the street and see it, not get out the car then.
Bring a coffee and stand in the road and have a good look.
Yeah, well, you might find a local coffee, mobile coffee unit or something. You could brand it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Who knows? Somebody must be sitting around with an empty. Yeah.
Thank you, Vincent.
Great. Thanks, Emily. Always nice to talk to you.
Such a pleasure.
So I'm going to post this back to you, this little camera, and then you can hopefully, if you don't mind the picture in the background of Naomi Campbell, I can swivel around or do it all again.
I'm sure picture of Naomi Campbell is always welcome.
Okay, thanks, Emily. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much, Vincent. I'll be in touch about the next phase.
Oh, hi, Emily. I just want to take you on a little tour of the room, my studio where I work, here in Islington. Here are the Beatles boxes, which I made up a couple of years ago. It's sort of a homage to the Brillo boxes. There's 7 of them. Yep, edition. And then getting back to David Bowie. Here is the ruby red one, and the original orange one, which was the one that Paul Smith spotted and liked and wanted a whole series of 4. Just pan around to Eric Clapton, and I'm moving a bit on that. This was taken at the Crystal Palace backstage. Again, with rock photography, a lot of people's pictures look the same. I was always trying to just get a tiny bit different, or a bit closer to the person. And moving back to David Bowie, I just wanted to show you the original photo. Don't know if that's a good angle of it. You can see he just stepped out of a lift with his minder, and the star of the movie, which was Just a Gigolo. I'll hold that up. Oh, turn this light up. You might be able to see it. Or not. Anyway, you can see where the little flash just popped right on him. And then I had Klaus Kolde, the printer, just run off some different types of just to see if I could get the quality for a screen print. I really wasn't that sure, but once I'd had the neg scanned a couple of years later, things are a lot easier when you've got a Photoshop piece of work to make a screen print of. Okay, that's moving around. There's the garden, and this is Tony McGee's picture of Mary Campbell. Yeah. So that's a great shot that he took for me for a campaign for washing up liquid, Persil washing up liquid. She's posing in a pair of special rubber gloves that they had made. There's a story there, but never mind. This is Bob Marley. Again, this is from the Rainbow. There's a lot of flare on that at the moment. I think if I take that off, you can get an idea what's going on. I made a screen print of another one of those pictures from that concert. And there it is. And then moving back, that's The Who, a single, one of the first singles I did. And going down slowly. That's the Beatles' This Boy, which does have an outer as well, but that's a cut down from the Beatles print that I did. And let me see, Chris Makos's print of Andy Warhol, altered image. I'm going to just pop that flash off again. Actually, it's the light in the room, I realise. Tiny little Damien Hirst, just a print. And there's some of the albums I've designed. There's a lot of them. And this was the first big award I got for promoting Eric Clapton's album. It was an in-store piece, and it was used on the ads and publicity at the time. And up here, I can bring it down. This is my first album cover award that I got from the States. Just working with a little black and white image and just putting some nice typography on it to make it come alive. Oops. And what else? Ah, yeah. Getting back to the Makos, when we worked together quite a bit, and I realised he had lots and lots of really great pictures of Warhol going about his day-to-day, and I convinced him that we could do a book that people like me would be interested in. It wasn't just about his artwork, but about his lifestyle, what he did every day, and how he went about producing his work. And we found this amazing set. So I thought it was a great double page spread, call it the Kissing Pages. So that was fun to do. It was all on spec. I had to find a publisher in London that would take it on. People wanted to see, the publishers wanted his work, or all of the famous people front to back, and we insisted we didn't want to do that. It's more for people trying to work out, what he did every day and how he managed to fit everything in on his trips. So some great pictures in that, and trying to make it a bit different from other biographies, rather than just do it with the face the right way up. I remember saying to him, what would Andy do? Would always try and subvert things a little bit, so we flipped it this way round. Okay, so in a quick pan round, this is pictures I took of The Who on stage, and made a little sort of montage them all together. And I think that one is the most used one, with the crowd all cheering at the end of a concert. I think that's it. This is where I do all my work, and if I can work it out on the Apple first, and then I make my prints up, and then eventually when they're printed, here they all are, ready to go. Neatly boxed up at last, after years of homemade boxes and boxes that didn't fill. The prints. Oh, this is an interesting one I did in the Beatles phase I was going through early on. I got all of the American tickets for their last tours and printed a big screen print in 6 colours, I think. Quite difficult for me. I don't think if I could do it again, but I reproduced all the type fonts exactly as they would have been at the time, because the tickets are all shattered and battered now, so I had to start over in each case. And that's it. Welcome to my studio, or let's say goodbye to that for now. And I think you've got a little bit of battery left. Let's just close them on.